Hey guys, welcome to Under Construction with Jerry Keenan, the Alliance for Actions podcast. This is where you can hear directly from the decision makers building a better future in New Jersey. Be sure to subscribe on your preferred platform so you never miss an episode. Now, here's Under Construction with Jerry Keenan.
And hello everyone, I'm Jerry Keenan and welcome to another show, Under Construction with Jerry Keenan. We've got a fantastic guest here today, Stacey Yudin, who is the CEO of NEP Services. Really a fantastic organization she runs, and it helps all of our unions, all of our nonprofits grow and get their messages out. I'm really glad to have you here, Stacey. Thank you, first of all, for your membership. It's a pleasure working with you. Thanks for being here today. And do me a favor, I give you a little intro about what NEP Services does, but I can't explain it nearly as good as you. Why don't you tell us what NEP Services is?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having us today. As you said perfectly, my name is Stacey Yudin. I'm the CEO of NEP Services. We are a technology and engagement firm really geared to help our organizations digitally transform and build power and authority for their narrative. So we deliver not only game-changing technology, but we work with labor unions, nonprofits, associations, a couple different franchises and private businesses across the country and Canada now to help them control the narrative, to help them take back their power when we talk about, what are their initiatives, what are their political aspirations, and how do we move the needle on informing their members, the voters, and the community.
Now, it's interesting. I would say, generally speaking, labor organizations up to a few years ago probably were not interested in what you're doing, what you're selling. But that idea and that industry and that feeling is really changing quite a bit.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There's been a lot of fear of change, I think, when it comes to technology and organizations, and I think rightfully so. When you talk about or think about your digital infrastructure, it's like, it's like, it's probably the bottom of your to-do list. But, it's 2026. We've been working with labor organizations for 30 years. I joined the company 15 years ago. My background's in data management and research, entrepreneur sort of by spirit. And what we realize and recognize is that there's going to be a wave of transformation when it comes to building power and managing your audience. And so how do I make sure that labor unions are ready for that transition? It's not just about building great tools. So at NEP, we have developed 4 proprietary platforms, everything from website to member engagement, communication systems. These are all built with our strategic focus on digital advocacy. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't move the needle on an issue, what's the point of even having a website, right? If your website's online and it collects dust, or you have an app where your members have to download to engage, you can't rely on your members or your employees to take the first action. So we talk about strategy a lot in our company.
Well, let me ask you about that. Let's talk about a specific issue. Data centers are now a big issue. We hear every day, it seems like there's something else online about data centers. And some of the towns across the state don't want, not even across the state, across many, many states don't want them. And you see some states are banning the development of new data centers. I'll tell you what, as the Alliance for Action, it is totally the wrong thing to do. We need data centers because we use this every single day. People complain about data centers as they're using the GPS.
Right, in their car.
Which is all run by...
And they're on their cell phone.
Yeah, and that's all because of the power that is going into the data centers and storing that information. So there are a number of issues why people think data centers are not good. We all know they are, and I look at it as New Jersey's got to be a leader on data center construction. I don't think we can talk about should New Jersey build data centers. The question is, why would we not? So let me ask you, how do you get that message out to not only your constituency, but the other people out there who are impacting your constituency?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, every goal that we have and every initiative we want to plan, whether it's legislation or working on getting data centers approved, you need a strategic plan. And so I think that's where our company separates ourselves. We're not just a technology company that's like, look, here, here's your tool, figure it out. You need a strategic plan, and you need to have and understand what does a full cycle of engagement and communication look like. So for example, let's talk about data centers. A lot of times I find my organizations are slow to adopt new member communication channels. So that is one of the reasons why we built Connect Plus, which is our all-in-one member engagement, voter engagement, community engagement platform. And what that does, and these are pain points that I saw and my team saw by working with organizations and sitting in their offices just like this and saying, look, why aren't we getting this project approved? Like, what is the barrier between us making sure that voters know the facts about this project and they're not just running to the city council meeting with their hair on fire thinking that this is going to make their electric bill go through the roof? The barrier to that was not only having a strategic plan for communication and engagement, but it was the tool set. So our Connect Plus platform, as one example, was born out of the needs on the ground to pass legislation, kill legislation in the dark of night, get data centers approved. And what it is, it's an all-in-one encrypted database where it's social media, it's text, it's email, it's mobile app, but it's all the way on your phone. So as a leader, you're busy. You need to be able to engage your membership in ways that they receive information. So again, what's the plan? Do I need to drive everyone in the community to the city council meetings? Probably not. I probably need to drive voters that have an issue that they want to cover. So Connect Plus in our system, we come up with a plan to make sure that we're communicating the way that people receive their information. So when I work with an organization, let's just take a labor union, they're invested in that data center being built, right? Because they're going to be on the job. That's going to provide work for their members. And so it's important for them to not only engage the voters in the community around that labor union, but to get their members aligned with the talking points. And a lot of what I see is even the membership is not engaged in the process of advocacy. So you probably have 5 generations of member as an organization. You got the retired guys all the way down to the young apprentices that you want to organize and the guys that are in high school thinking about, do they want to join your organization? The way that my grandparents consumed communication is much, much different than the way you and I consume. I mean, we're on a podcast right now, right? That's different than how my grandparents consumed information on a radio. So when we get back to data centers, it's about communicating in a way that your audience is going to receive the information. And it has to be easy, and it should be all mobile driven.
I was just going to say that. It has to be easy because I think generally speaking, people who want to see these issues move forward would like to help.
Absolutely.
But they're not going to help. Many of them are not going to help if it's too difficult.
Yeah.
And so how do you go ahead making it easy for someone to support an important issue?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, again, just back to where we start, it's all about the strategic plan. So what's the issue? And then let's work backwards on a timeline. So typically when our staff and our team goes in and works with an organization, whether it's a private company or a union, let's do an audit, right? How many databases does your organization have? And what we find is that they have a texting tool over here, they have social media over here, they have a website that's usually horrendous and over here, they have an email system over here, and that's called chaos and confusion. It could take them 2 to 3 weeks to pull a database report and then sort the database report by this council district. That's not good enough. It's 2026. We have AI, which is another topic we can get to later, but we have tools and cloud infrastructure where now on the push of a button, I can target my members and my voters that live in Jessica Ramos district because we're endorsing that. So what that does is that when you have your data in one spot, and then you can pivot based on who the audience of your members or voters are, I can take my phone, push one button, select all members in the 3rd district, hit members with this certification on these job sites, and I can help them deliver my talking points. And I think the second part of that strategy to win is being proactive. A lot of what I see is we wait to talk about digital infrastructure and transformation until the issue's at our door. We really encourage that the work around technology and engagement starts not when you signed a contract for an app or a website or you're going to do some social media. It's every day after you launch that technology. So us as a company, we have a full-time journalist on staff here who's also a professor of journalism in New Jersey. As we've expanded as a company, we've built the human capital and expertise to help power the technology, because when I have a plumbing problem, I don't fix it myself. I call a plumber. And so it's about not being afraid to make that change and working with experts that have a plan that can help you analyze all that data, put your data in a usable, accessible application that then you can do what you do best, which is rally the troops around an issue to get that data center approved.
I remember several years ago, my son was starting college, and we went through the orientation, and there was a speaker there who said, "I've never had a job that even existed 5 years before I started it," and that is, I just always thought that was such a cool sentence and statement, but it's very true. Now you're having technology changes all the time. So how do labor leaders and how do other people, what challenges are they facing in order to stay on top of the new technology?
Yeah, I think it's all about selecting a strategic partner in the industry that is cloud-based, that is going to deliver for you the updated technology. Like I said, if I have a plumbing problem, I call a professional plumber who's certified and trained, who's an expert in the field. So I think strategic partnerships is a way that a lot of organizations can win. And again, it's also the specialization of expertise. I think the second part is understanding that you don't have to do everything all the time. I think over the last decade, what I've seen is this pressure to we have to email our members. We have to post 10 times on social media. Really, that's not the strategy. The industry now, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of chaos and confusion online, right? So how do you control the narrative? One is being proactive, and one is selecting the right tool for the end strategy. So if I want to reach retired members, I'm probably not going to have you post on TikTok. I want to make sure that there's an algorithm-free pipeline also for you to engage your employees and your members, because remember, those are your number one audience. If you can't get your members or employees to parrot your talking points, to go tell their neighbors, to have the facts on the issue while they're at a barbecue, how can we get a stranger or a voter to get on your side? So I think it's about preparation, right? Starting the engagement journey early. And once you build that pipeline, where it's an algorithm free like our platforms, right? I'm not worried that other email tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact, which are great tools, they're just not built for this need. So selecting the right tool and then the right tool for the right audience, right? Technology is just a tool. It's the strategy that drives the effectiveness and pulls the tools together with the messaging that can help you make sure that data center gets approved, or we've already messaged the voters around that data center, so you're setting the tone. You're controlling the narrative before all of the rumor mill on Reddit and all the rumor mill on Nextdoor infiltrate people's mind. It's about education, right?
It is, because so many times you have an important issue that is very difficult to get approved, and maybe sometimes does not get approved, because there's so much misinformation, sometimes just outright lies. So, and these organizations that are pushing the lies and the misinformation and so on, frankly, are very good at what they do. They're able to, they deal with emotions, they deal with scare tactics. I was at a meeting several years ago where the police had to walk me out to my car, and I said, "No, I'm okay, guys, I'm okay." And they said, no, we need to walk you out to our car. There were 1,000 people inside that building, and 999 of them were angry at me. And so the police walked me out to my car and didn't leave until I started the car. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because, they feed on emotion, they feed on lies and misinformation. It's a mob mentality, and it's very difficult for someone who might not be as versed as the antis are. The antis can come up with a lie, and if I don't know it's a lie, I can't call them on it. So how do you're doing that?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect example of how technology is just a tool. It can't stand on its own. You have to have a strategic plan. And I know I keep saying that, but it's such an important foundation of your strategy to win. The technology is the tool, but it's really about how you build your audience narrative. And we want to control the narrative on our issues way ahead of time. And you're busy running your organization. I mean, that's really why we exist. When I started NEP 15 years ago and worked my way up from the bottom, I didn't predict that we were going to hire an Associated Press writer. I didn't predict that we were going to hire a professional journalist on staff. I didn't expect that we were going to hire a great team of audio and visual people that can go on the ground and capture B-roll, right? All of that is a proactive collection of assets and talent, human talent that can help support you. Because, look, we're a tribal economy, right? None of us can be successful on our own. So I think if any one of your listeners could take anything away from this is like, okay, what can I do to audit? What are my future projects that are coming down the pipeline for my area? What are those projects? How is that going to move the needle? And back into a strategy. And it might be tools, it might be engagement to voters, but it's much easier to educate proactively than it is to work behind the 8 ball and try to reframe someone's opinion that have been burned into them because they heard misinformation and lies. So again, it's about proactive behavior and engagement. And the digital transformation curve is, like you said, it's only becoming quicker. I mean, AI is accelerating every second the opportunity, and the train has left the station. So I think the fear of change needs to be something that labor leaders, CEOs of private organizations lean into. One of the things I've learned is that when I'm fearful about a change, a new technology, something that I know I have to adopt, I don't do it alone. I reach out to experts. I partner with other companies that provide expertise in that market, and I learn. So I don't let fear hold me back from transformation. I really lean into that fear, and I think it's time to change right now. Otherwise, advocacy and the halls of power are reacting more to what's happening digitally than they are to the old school relationships that you may have built over the last couple of years. You want to do that in conjunction with a digital communications plan.
Now you do that and you'll lean into the new technology, but I have to believe many of your clients, particularly before they started working with you, did not lean into that new technology. How do you get them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to bleed a little bit along the way. I always say it's hard work. And, a project that's probably going to be overwhelming doesn't have to be overwhelming for you. That's our responsibility. So when we engage a new client and we do an audit, what do they have now? What is already working? You don't need to change what's not working. But where we stand out is the fact that, we build everything. We do all the data hygiene. We're looking at all the different opportunities. I'll give you a quick example. We had an organization that was about to lose a data center in central New York. And they had no idea why the city council had already flipped, right? And they have strong relationships with that city council. So we did opposition research. We have access to incredibly deep financial data for businesses and organizations. I can tell campaign finance, where everything's coming from. I can tell who's the leader, what your credit score is, how much your home's worth. Privacy in data is pretty much dead. So it's good to have a company like ours on your side. So we dug in and we found that out-of-state dark money from an extreme environmentalist group in Colorado was funding this narrative, this false misinformation in this small city. And that is why the town council was terrified, right? So we immediately use the infrastructure that my organization already built. Scare tactics. You've seen it in every major election, right? But at a local level, you can fight so much easier just with some basic controlling of the narrative. So once we had that opposition research, we created a communications plan. And then because we're also a tech company, we delivered that communication to the right audiences. Do I need to hit every doghouse in this city? No, I probably need to hit only registered voters. I also want to strategically change my message, whether they're more conservative or they fall more on the liberal side. So again, we partner with our organizations, and I think that's where the opportunity is right now. whether it's me or any other firm, you need to have a readiness and an ability to say, I don't know everything, but I want to partner with an organization to control the narrative. And how do I do that? And who's my audience? So data is power. So we start with really farming out public data, voter data, and then the goal is long term that you have control of that data. You're not relying on third-party social media.
Mm-hmm.
You now have those data lists of all the voters. You now have built a relationship with all of your followers, like you have on LinkedIn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a great LinkedIn following. You have a great set of audience members. That's from hard work and consistent communication.
Sure. So no one is perfect. Where have you seen some of the worst cyber mistakes? What's the wrong thing to do?
Yeah, in this industry, this is why I enjoy what I do every day, and I still am on the ground as an active working CEO, and my team actually goes to your office and wants to sit with you because you really sometimes need that physical interaction. But some of the real quick tips I would say that you could take right now and make sure that your cybersecurity is up to date and you're not open for attacks are pretty much top 3. I've seen a lot of websites that haven't been touched or updated in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that your IT infrastructure from a public perspective is updated, right? Things like an SSL certificate. That's that little locked button in the browser.
Oh, yeah.
Simple things like that.
So we're learning things here today.
Yeah.
We have millions and millions of people watching here. Now they know an SSL. They know that is now. Yeah.
I'm here to educate and I'm here to please. I think, one of the other big no-nos, and I think this is about personal and private privacy, that's important for each, is I see a lot of unions that have their leadership and a lot of also private organizations, they list the name, email, and personal cell phone on the website. So there are automated bots that scrape every website. I have built them myself for our own internal uses, but that scrape these websites, they pulled up public data, and then you wonder why you're getting 17 spam calls about car insurance.
Yeah, for sure.
So, making sure that your member data is encrypted, making sure that you limit how many different tools that you're using that are third party. That was one of the major innovations that we whiteboarded back in 2016 with, probably 40 clients. Mm-hmm. We said, okay, what are your pain points to engagement? Let's work backwards to the tool. And we realized that, oh my God, they're using an Excel spreadsheet to manage their members. And then it takes 3 weeks to run a database report. And the benefits office is the only office that has the accurate addresses. So a lot of my groups are spending thousands of dollars on direct mail pieces because they have to print and send their members information legally, but they're getting all the kickback mail because we also haven't engaged our audience enough where they have enough trust to give you the right data. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think step 1 is doing an internal audit. Step 2 is talking with industry experts and making sure that as you build a plan to execute, to know how many members you have that are veterans, mm-hmm. How do you get that data, right? So communication is top down, engagement is member and bottom up. And bottom up engagement is what drives voters to the polls, mm-hmm. right? Scare tactics or not, they're taking whatever information they heard on social media and they're running with it. Same with your members. So if we can't get your members aligned internally, then it's going to be much harder to get community members and voters. So I always recommend an inside-out strategy. Mm-hmm.
So how do you, social media is a huge a tool these days,
yeah.
But sometimes social media messages blow up and sometimes they go nowhere. How do you get your message to blow up?
Isn't that frustrating? It's like you don't control the algorithm.
That's right.
I mean, it's, social media is a free tool, and I think it's an incredibly important tool to broadcast, your campaign, to broadcast what you're doing for members. You as a leader, you're a brand as well. So a lot of times when I work with clients, like the organization is a brand, but the leadership is also a personal brand. And so when we talk about social media, it's a tool within this broader strategy. What I find frustrating as a leader of my organization who has social media, and I have to be responsible for that along with help from someone in the audience here, I find it frustrating that only 2 to 5% of my posts reach my audience. So for the last decade,
That's rough.
It's rough.
Put a lot of work into that.
Do you get out of bed for 5% ROI? I don't. So I think, you really need to think about social media as a one tool in your tool belt. And you need to think about engaging and investing, because technology is an investment, especially now and long term it will be,
Sure.
right? It's not going away. Investing in an algorithm-free pipeline, an algorithm-free distribution, and that's what we ended up building at NEP, because if you spent the last 10 years paying Facebook to now you have 5,000 members on Facebook, but only 5% of those members are going to see your post, oh my gosh, that's stressful.
Yeah.
So you're investing a lot of time in creating content, creating graphics, and you're getting less than 5%. Now, going viral is something that you can actually control to a degree. And there's strategies to pay to play, we'll say, on these third-party platforms to be strategic about how a post can go viral. So I think that's one area that we've invested a lot of R&D and a lot of infrastructure is in making sure that when you're spending a lot of time on an issue, you're getting the results that you need.
Yeah. So again, changing world, and you're working with people that might not be ready to change with the times as quickly as you might want them to, or they should. How do you get that message across that, hey, you got to get moving or you're going to miss the bus and you'll be left behind?
Yeah, I think if you look at where AI is now from an industry perspective, it's changing by the second.
Yeah.
Digital transformation needs to happen now. The train has left the station. I think that's really comes into our side of the investment. So companies like mine, again, this is why I moved and have invested in New Jersey. Part of our 5-year strategic plan was to build out our East Coast infrastructure as we were growing across, first responders as well as labor organizations and private companies. So if I don't have someone on the ground to help you navigate that digital transformation, it's not going to happen. I see a lot of app first strategies, right, where you have to download the app to get engaged and you're dead in the water.
I'm glad you brought that up, because speaking on a personal level, I can't tell you how many times it's a doctor's office or it's some kind of thing, and it's almost impossible. And I end up putting the phone on the table and saying to my wife, please take care of this. Or in the office here, saying to the people in the office, please take care of this, because that can be so frustrating. And what I tell people here all the time, I want us as the Alliance for Action to make it easy for our members to work with us and interact with us. And I don't want them to having to jump through hoops. That is a very important key, an item. So how do you do that?
Yeah, it starts with a strategy, and it's creating what I call a center of gravity. So again, from a pain point just like this that clients have told us across the last 10 years, we're innovating, we're developers. So these pain points, we built an actual what we call a resource center inside of our engagement software. So whether you download the app or not, you can still text, communicate, push notify, and not only are you going to get an email to your inbox, but you're also going to get an email that shows up in the app, that shows up on your dashboard. And so you're creating a center of gravity. So once you build, like, for example, the resource center, you can put your health benefits, you can put your employment, you can put benefit office, what their wage hour issues, and then it's an experience. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you touched on is like, there's a lot of shit happening everywhere. Excuse my French.
You got that right.
It's chaos, it's confusion. I've got social media, I've got my email. Our system and the reason we built it is an experience. So based on the role within your organization, you don't need to see everything. So when you log into the system or you get an email, it's specific to you as a member, right? If I'm an apprentice and I'm a young journeyman, I don't need to see the retiree barbecue. That doesn't matter. And when I delete that email because the retiree barbecue doesn't apply to me, you've now told Google and Yahoo that email is not relevant. So the next time you do email with something relevant for that apprentice, it's going to go in their spam. So there's a lot of different ways to create a strategy, but it's about not overwhelming your members with everything all the time.
And I think that's a good way to end this. She is Stacey Yudin, the CEO of NEP Services. Stacey, I want to thank you for being here. It's a pleasure knowing you, working with you, and having your membership. Thank you so much again for being here. I'm Jerry Keenan, the president of the New Jersey Alliance for Action. Do me a favor, if you like what you see here, tag us, or we can put a like up on the screen and tag us. Send the information out to all of your people, and then when you have a picture or a message, tag us, and we'll send it out to our people. It's a social media, a viral world here today, and so do that. Don't forget our hashtag, which is Building a Better Future, and our tag is New Jersey Alliance. Our website, obviously, is allianceforaction.com, and let me fix that. Our tag is Alliance for Action. So thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Under Construction with Jerry Keenan is a production of the New Jersey Alliance for Action. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode, and be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. To learn more about membership and events, go to allianceforaction.com. Together, we're building a better future. We'll see you next time.